Even I can't predict if Bitcoin's price is high or low, or feels high or feels low, or is about to go higher or lower. And if I can't, you can't, and Michael Saylor can't. If Michael Saylor can't predict it, nobody can, because he's bought more Bitcoin than anyone else on the planet. Literally. MicroStrategy, his company, is sitting on $77 billion of Bitcoin. And he regularly buys Bitcoin, and then it dips. In fact, it seems like almost every time Michael Saylor announces a buy of Bitcoin, when he announces the buy on Monday morning, the price is actually lower than the average acquisition price in his announcement. So he'll announce on Monday morning that, hey, MicroStrategy bought, Bitcoin at however many Bitcoin at $118,000 per coin. I checked the price of Bitcoin and it's $116,000 per coin. Meaning if he had waited, he could have bought it at 116. But he got $77 billion of Bitcoin because he didn't play those games. Because if you wait, you miss out. You never hit the price that it was going to be. Now, here's the example that I would give for why I can't time the market. So I regularly post on I post on Facebook about Bitcoin based on my enthusiasm level. So there are quite a few posts, if you look back, where I am all excited and post something like, it feels like Bitcoin's about to run higher. And maybe 1/3 of the time I'm right. But it seems like every time I post something bullish, which means optimistic, the price dips. And so the most recent example of this was last week. So at the end of last week, Bitcoin was hovering around $109,000, $110,000. Maybe it was the last half of last week or the weekend or whatever it was. And I was like, this is crazy. It's going higher. I know it's going higher. So I thought I composed a post for Facebook, basically saying, hey, it feels like Bitcoin's about to go higher. And then I was like, you know what? Every time I post one of these things, it goes lower. So I'm not going to post anything, because every time I post that it's about to go higher, then inevitably it dips before it goes higher. And I was like, it always does the opposite of what I think. Of course, it always eventually goes up, but in the short term, it always seems to do the opposite. So last week, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to post anything, because as soon as I post that it's about to go higher, now's a great buying opportunity, blah, 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 which I always, I post stuff like that from time to time. But what I was really planning to sort of post, all capital letters, you should buy Bitcoin right now at $110,000, and it's up 10% in like literally a week. When I was about to post it, I was like, every time I make these posts, it doesn't work out. It takes forever for it to go higher. So I didn't post it. I was like, I'm not going to play this game. I'm not going to play this game because it always seems to do the opposite of what I want. And again, that's why you have to be patient, because it always eventually goes up. So in the short term, Bitcoin always seems to do the opposite of what you want. In the long term, it always does exactly what you want. But in the short term, it always seems to do the opposite. So I did not post anything. And of course, I don't post anything, and the next day it jumps to 114, and the next day after that it's 118, and the next day after that it's 122, and I'm like, of course. The one time where I actually exercise some restraint, because I'm like, I just never seem to be able to guess this right, I'm not going to post anything, and boom, the price goes up 10%. And of course I didn't post anything, but there's never a bad time to buy Bitcoin. I'm always endorsing now to be a good time to buy Bitcoin. So, that would have implied that last week was a good time to buy Bitcoin, because I always say it is. But anyway, I didn't post anything. So if you're looking at it, I think if you went back and evaluated every single post I've ever made, you'd find that there's not a great correlation in the near term to what exactly Bitcoin's about to do. It probably, based on my post, does the wrong thing about half the time, the right thing about half the time. Maybe it does the wrong thing 2/3 of the time, and I'm only right 1/3 of the time. I don't know. But regardless, all that matters is the long term. Now, another example of this is somebody messaged me earlier this week and said, hey, James Check said the best time to set up a recurring buy, which is called dollar cost averaging, DCA, a recurring buy on River or wherever, Coinbase, wherever you're doing it. River is much better because there's no fees on River for recurring buys. So he said, James Check said, the best time to set up recurring buys, if you look at the entire history of Bitcoin, is on Friday mornings between 7 and 8 p.m. He's like, that's the best time. So, if you're going to pick a random time in the week to set up a recurring buy, you might as well pick between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. on Friday mornings, Central Time, as in the time zone of Mississippi. even though he's in Australia. So I just went and ran the time zone calculation. And I think he recommends 11 o'clock p.m. Australia time. And depending on, and that's 11 p.m. Australia time. And depending on the time of day, or the time of the year, that's between 7 o'clock p.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. 7 o'clock a.m. and 8 o'clock a.m. in Mississippi, because I think Australia's it's like 11 hours ahead of Mississippi, but some of the year it's either 12 or 10. Anyway, whatever it is. So whatever the calculation is. But this person said, look, I have it set up where it auto buys between 7 and 8 a.m. on Friday mornings, but it always seems to dip right after I buy. Should I change it? And my answer was no, don't change it, because as soon as you change it, it's going to go back to working perfectly between 7 and 8 a.m. on Friday mornings, Central Time. I'm like, you just can't win the timing game. Like, no matter when you set up your recurring buy, it's going to feel to you like the price always dips right after your buy is triggered. So every time you're looking at your buy, literally no matter what time of the week, every time you're looking at it, you're going to check the price of Bitcoin and think, dang it, it's somehow lower than the price I bought at. Again, now statistically, that's not true. Statistically, it'll be lower than the price you bought it 4 times, but then the 5th time it'll be way higher than the price you bought it, which makes up for more, more than makes up the 4 downtime. So yeah, maybe on average it always seems to be lower than the price you bought it, because there's always like a dip after you bought it. But enough of the time there's a huge price rise after you bought it. So for example, last Friday between 7 and 8 a.m., I don't know what the price was, probably in the ballpark of 110 or something like that, and you're up 12%. So maybe you went 5 weeks in a row where every time it seemed like it was a 1% below your buy price, and then boom, one time it's 12% above your buy price, which cancels out the other 4 or 5 times. So anyway, you can't play that game. I can't time it. Michael Saylor can't time it. You can't time it. All we can do is buy as much Bitcoin as we can, hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. Don't play the timing games, and just zoom out. Zoom out. In the long term, it goes way up, and that's all that matters. And the long term is all that matters, and that is what investing is like.